If you like my videos, please consider supporting me on Patreon or subscribing. Thank you. Moe, Larry, Curly, and yes, even Shemp are names that are synonymous with slapstick comedy. For almost a century, they have poked, slapped, punched, kicked, and gouged their ways into our hearts. Today we're going to take a look at a computer game that's been described as an interactive movie. So come on along, you chowder heads. This is the history of the Three Stooges computer game. The year is 1986. Bob Jacob is sitting in his office looking at IPs for his next game. In 1985, both he and his wife Phyllis founded Cinemaware, the company that any Amiga computer owner will surely know. This company was the reason I purchased an Amiga back in 1986. They didn't just want to release computer games, they wanted to revolutionize it. Mr. Jacobs envisioned releasing interactive movies, and the game that started it all was Defender of the Crown. Defender of the Crown was a breakthrough on the 16-bit Amiga computer. Released back in 1986, the CD quality sound and lifelike graphics are still a sight to behold today. The player takes the role of one of 4 Saxons as they try to take control of England. The player must amass armies and take control of their opponent's castles. You can raid, loot, and destroy the other castles. Periodically, you'll be involved in jousting contests. Every so often, a damsel in distress will ask you for your help. You can even call on Robin Hood to assist you 3 times during the game. The gameplay is very similar to the board game Risk, with a little bit of RPG elements thrown in. Not enough can be said about the talents of graphic artist Jim Sachs. The graphics and sound really hold up even by today's standards. The game was ported to a wide variety of platforms, from the 4-color CGA PC versions all the way up to the 16-bit Amiga. And in that time, the game has sold over 1 million copies. There is even a sequel released for the Xbox and PlayStation 2. A remastered version was recently released for Windows 10 just last year. Back to 1986, after a hugely successful launch of his new company Cinemaware, Mr. Jacobs is looking for his next IP. As a young boy, he loved the Three Stooges and thought what better way to produce an interactive movie on the computer than with these 3 knuckleheads. The Three Stooges are a trio of comedians who got their start in 1922. The original lineup consisted of Moe, Larry, and Shemp alongside their business partner Ted Healy. After a 10-year stint on the vaudeville circuit, Shemp left to pursue a solo career and was replaced with Moe's younger brother Curly. These were considered the peak Stooges years. Columbia Pictures had the boys under contract for 23 years doing 2 reel shorts for the company. The Stooges were kept in the dark about how popular they really were, so they never received a single pay raise. The Stooges would go on to do 220 films for the company, with 3 of those in primitive color. John Cutter and Bill Zielinski envisioned a massive board game for the Three Stooges. This game was another Cinemaware classic and started off in typical Stooge fashion.
Hey, this looks like a kid game. You idiots!
The evil banker is threatening to take the orphanage, so it's up to the Stooges to save the day. You must raise $5,000 by playing a series of minigames across the board. All of these games are based on classic Stooge shorts. You have 30 days to raise the money, otherwise the orphans are kicked to the curb.
We gotta figure out a way to get some money and get it quick.
You select these minigames by timing a button press as a hand randomly points to various symbols representing in-game events. Each one can either raise or lower the Stooges' cash total. Each event takes up 1 day of the game. The hand will gradually speed up, but it can be slowed down if you land on the one where Mo is poking Curly in the eyes. You get to control Mo and get to knock the heck out of both Larry and Curly. You can give them the eye poke, slap, kick, and punch. You have to watch out though, because they can block your moves. Not only was this funny, it was fun to play. It utilized actual digitized sound effects from the Stooges along with their voices. By the way, the voices are amazing in this game. Considering this game is over 30 years old, it also shipped on only 2 floppy disks. Nowadays, with CD-ROM technology, voices aren't a big deal, but back then, this was top shelf.
You idiots! Oh! 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 You mixed me! Oh! Oh! You idiots! Oh! You idiots! Oh! Oh! See that? Oh!
As I previously mentioned, the games are based on actual Three Stooges shorts. The boxing is based on 1936's Punch Drunks. In the short, Curly is a boxer and gets enraged whenever he hears Pop Goes the Weasel. Larry will sit at ringside and play the tune on his violin. The violin gets destroyed, so he has to race to find a radio. You have to race across the board watching out for various obstacles. You have to get to the radio shop and back within 5 rounds to collect the bonus.
Oh my God, there he is!
The hospital minigame is based on the 1934 short Men in Black. The Stooges portray doctors as they try to make their rounds. This is another obstacle course where you have to guide them down a hallway collecting medical supplies as you go. If you hit 5 objects, the game is over. The more items you collect, the bigger the bonus.
Report to room 66, Dr. Fine. Room 72, Dr. Howard.
Calling Dr. Howard. Dr. Fine. Dr. Howard. Bullseye. 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 I got it. I got it. I got it. Bullseye.
The catering minigame involves serving pies. However, the Stooges don't appreciate the hoity-toity attitude. Throughout their careers, the Stooges were involved in many pie fights. Just an interesting trivia fact, in their shorts they are not throwing real pies. The pies are actually shaving cream and sometimes rusty nails. They would have to be swept up off the floor between takes and reused. The cracker eating contest sees Curly sit down for a nice bowl of oyster stew. You have to grab the crackers as fast as you can because there is one very protective oyster who is gobbling them up. This comes from the 1941 short Beautiful But Dumb. Again, another great use of digitized screens and sounds. Also scattered across the board are various dollar signs which will automatically give you $500. If you think you are up on your Stooge facts, there is a trivia minigame. There is also a banker icon which will automatically deduct you 10% if you land on it, so be warned. There are actually 4 different endings in this game. If you fail to achieve the $5,000 goal, the orphanage goes back to the bank. If you manage to get $5,000, you will save the orphanage. $7,500 or above will net you enough to save the orphanage and get it repaired. Finally, if you manage to get to $10,000, you will get to marry the 3 beautiful girls. Well, how about the conversions? This was ported to a few different platforms over the last 30 years, from the trusty but perhaps rusty Commodore 64 to a not-so-great NES version. If you're looking for the best graphics and sounds, the PS1 version is your #1 choice. No matter which one you choose, you'll get a solid Stooge experience. Special mention must go to the remastered one, which came out back in 2012. The graphics are a bit more cartoony than the previous iterations, but the core gameplay remains the same. So what do I think of this game? I've been both a Stooge fan and a video game fan all of my life, so to me this was the perfect match. Sure, the gameplay is a little thin, but the sights and sounds more than make up for it. Now that the video's over, do you think I'm going to go play this game? Why, certainly! Thanks for watching.